Welcome, it's Jeremy Allen Gould. I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that in fact the rumors that you have all heard are true. I started this podcast because I freaking love music. I was privileged enough to book amazing artists and bands in the past, and I was lucky enough to stay in touch with many of them to this day. This is a place to hear their stories. Thank you so much for riding along on this journey, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true. Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of the Rumors Are True podcast. My name is Jeremy, and today I welcome Nate Parrish. You know Nate from the band Kutless. Awesome conversation with an awesome artist. So cool that he would come on this podcast and tell me all these great stories and throughout his career. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy this latest episode with Nate Parrish. Nate, thanks so much, man, for coming on the podcast. Dude, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, stoked to be on it, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Tell me what's going on in your life right now. What's currently in your world?
Whew. So right now we are knee deep into potty training, and
in there.
So that is awesome. Keeps me on my toes. It also makes me scared to walk on my toes throughout the house. I found a few surprises this week. So that's it's been it's cool, man. My son is freaking awesome, so he's doing a good job.
That's awesome. That sounds exciting. How old is your son?
He's 3.5, and
nice.
It's been it's like toddlers. They kind of just, he's like, all right, I'm ready to potty train, kind of thing.
Yeah,
we've tried
it just clicks.
Times. Yeah. It just clicks. Yeah, so that's what we're doing.
That's awesome, man. What are you doing work-wise?
I am a creative director / pastor at our church that we go to, Resurrection Church in Bakersfield.
That's awesome, man. That's exciting. How did you get into that?
Man, so we'll get to it, but my first band was like a worship band back in the day, and so I've been in ministry in some capacity ever since. So 20 plus years, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't try to do it. Like, I wasn't like, I'm going to start doing worship music or preaching. I actually didn't want to do either of those things, but doors were open, and I felt like God gave me an opportunity. And my philosophy has always just been to walk through an open door and try,
absolutely.
Like it's something you can contribute to.
Well, God knows best what's best for your life. So I think sometimes it's, as much as we don't want to do it, it's like, maybe I should do that.
Yeah, for sure.
He knows what's best, So
yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, let's talk about growing up for you. Maybe how music kind of came into your life. Maybe some records, some bands, artists, maybe even concerts that kind of influenced who you are.
Heck yeah. So I don't remember this because I was too little, but my mom said when MTV was a thing, they used to play music, I would get really hyped when Talking Heads would come on.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, you knew all the dance moves as like a little toddler, like doing the dance moves to Same As It Ever Was. And
great song.
So Talking Heads, and I remember getting a cassette for Christmas one year. I didn't know what it was. And it was Talking Heads. And then from there, my dad really loved a band called The Cars. And so I grew up on that. And then on the other side, like my sister's name is Rhiannon. So Fleetwood Mac is a big deal in our family.
Song. Great song.
Yeah. And so my dad also loved Bob Dylan, loved AC/DC, Tom Petty. So I had a lot of cool, really solid musical influences growing up. And when I decided to, and you have that like one friend in high school who's like the metal kid, you know? You gotta have that one kid who's like, dude, come over to my house. I have something super cool. And it was Sepultura. And
oh, nice.
He showed me Sepultura, Megadeth, Metallica, that kind of stuff. But I think for me, the album that I personally was like, okay, this is my music now.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say was Live at the Roxy, Social Distortion.
Nice.
That felt to me like, I wasn't even sure it was punk rock. Like I just loved his, it just.
You there? Cut out. You paused.
Oh, I think I got booted.
Sorry, yeah, you're good. No worries. You were saying Social Distortion.
Yeah. So I got Live at the Roxy by Social Distortion in high school. A friend gave it to me, and that felt like, oh, this is like my music, because it was kind of a conglomeration of all of the things, right? It had like some of the Cash, Bob Dylan, folk elements to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely rocked. His delivery was just so snarly and like, described as like a pit bull on a chain, you know?
Yeah.
I really loved it. I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking about necessarily, but I love it. And so, so Social D, and that set me on the road of, back when you used to buy a CD, you read the liner notes to figure out what those bands like.
Yeah.
And so, I was introduced to MXPX and Face to Face and all that kind of stuff. And then my first ever concert was MXPX at the Fillmore in San Francisco.
Nice. With
opening band The Ataris.
Wow. And
me and my dad went. He took me to pretty much every show, regardless of the band.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that was my first experience with like live music, and I just was hooked.
Did you go home and want to play an instrument? Is that kind of what inspired you, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of wanted to play. I kind of was scared I wasn't going to be good at it, you know?
Sure.
And I had always been involved in sports, and I was really good at sports. So I was like, why am I going to try something new? What if I'm not good at it? Just an ego thing. But I finally did get a guitar, and I just went to work, man. I blood, sweat, and tears for like 6 months straight. And then I started my first punk band. And my first show ever was opening for the Huntingtons.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, dude, I already made it. This is easy. We did it, guys.
That's amazing. What band was that called?
That was called Moving Forward. And this will be a little bit of a trivia, but I don't know if you're familiar with Betty Rocket Records.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you know Shop 11 Phoenix?
Yeah, I know the name. I don't. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so it was a couple of guys in that band. We were the side band, a little more like melodic skate punk type stuff.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so I was like writing music even though I didn't know what the chords were called.
Sure.
I was just like, it goes like this, So that started me out on my journey.
That's awesome, man. You kind of mentioned your dad taking you to concerts. Did you grow up in a Christian home, or was it kind of? The reason why I ask, I didn't know, because like for me personally, I grew up as a pastor's son, and it's like we didn't listen to AC/DC, we didn't listen to Social D, So it's like I'm just curious, is that something that was open in your home, or was your dad like how was that the dynamic for that?
Yeah, I would call it a Christian home for sure. My parents both worked really hard so we could go to a private school, because in Stockton, where I grew up, it's pretty rough. It could be rough there. My sister's older. She used to get beat up at school all the time. And so my mom's like, screw this. I'm going to put these kids in a private school. So they both worked. So we could go to a safe environment. And so that kind of, it was a Christian school. So I had chapel, and you had to go to chapel. And I think for me, it just like faith or any kind of belief, it has to be your own. There's no coercing someone into true faith. Really, it has to be your own. So I think for me, it clicked after high school. But so I would say it was a Christian home. We didn't go to church very much, if ever. My mom was kind of a rebel, so she got kicked out of churches a lot for questioning leadership,
which is a perfectly okay thing to do.
It's I love it because it shaped me. I got that in me as well, and I love that she did that. Anyway, so yeah, I would say it was a Christian home. But as far as music goes, they just, it wasn't that strict with any of that stuff. It was obviously they weren't going to let me listen to stuff with parental advisory,
sure,
or anything like that. But no, it was just like, if music's good and you like it,
yeah,
cool, whatever, And my dad was a rocker. He had long hair, tattoo. He had an earring before an earring was like cool for dudes.
Yeah.
So they were just pretty chill about that. And
that's awesome.
He loved rock. And when I introduced him to Social D and MXPX, he really liked it, actually. And so I would oftentimes get in his truck and he's listening to a CD that I don't even have.
Wow.
And yeah. So
that's awesome. That's exciting. So you mentioned kind of delving into starting to play music. Obviously you mentioned your first punk band or younger band. What kind of led after that? Like, did you just what bands kind of transpired from after that?
Yeah, so that band, we played one show. It was amazing, and then our dumb old singer decided to go to college, and we broke up. And I tried to do a band after that, but I realized I had a clear vision of songwriting, and I kind of said I'm just going to do it acoustic. So I just started playing coffee shops and stuff, and writing my own songs and recording them. And it wasn't until early 2000s when I moved to Modesto and got involved in a youth group there as like an intern. Essentially, we had youth nights, and you do like youth music, worship and stuff. But we had a lot of hardcore kids. I'm talking like flat iron hair and hoodies on when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And so we're like, we need to write stuff that resonates with our people. And so we started writing our own music, and I put screaming in it and stuff like that. And we would have like our youth nights were like mosh pits. Like I fell off of a speaker onto someone one time, and it was like that. And so that's kind of how I continued on my musical journey. It was, I think in my mind, I was just going to be in a punk band and be in a huge punk band. But I guess God had other plans. It was somehow I found myself doing the church music thing, which I had always really not been interested in.
Sure. What's talk to me about the Worth Dying For band that you mentioned earlier. How did that kind of come to? And you guys obviously wound up signing to Integrity. How did that kind of come to?
Yeah, so we started writing our own music, and we would record it. We put out like a little EP just for our kids, the youth group, and then it got passed around at like a music festival, Spirit West Coast. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah,
but it's on the West Coast. But it got passed around there, and we started getting phone calls from record labels. And one of them was actually Tooth and Nail. And really? I was like, sign it. We're signing with Tooth and Nail. That's what we're doing. And because that was, every punk rocker's dream was signing with Tooth and Nail. But they were like, no, the deal's not good, or this or that. I'm like, dang it. So we ended up signing with Integrity, which traditionally had like, I don't know how to put this, but more like there's just worship music, it wasn't anything totally edgy, I guess. At the time their big artist was Hillsong. This is Hillsong before they did it, and Lincoln Brewster and stuff like that. So I wasn't super into it, but they loved us, and we ended up signing with them, and they just basically bought our produced album that we had done on our own, and we immediately went on tour and started touring. Yeah, we did that I was in that band for probably like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Looking back on it, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the record you put out? What's it called?
So the first one is just self-titled, Worth Dying For. The second one was called Love Riot, and I don't really love the first one. I think at that time, honestly, I was very insecure about my songwriting, and scared to kind of step out and do that. So I just kind of stuck with playing guitar and stuff and screaming in the background. The second album, I really forced myself to branch out. And so the second album has a lot more songs that I wrote on there. And obviously I love that one better because my songs are on there, but I feel like it's a great album. It's unique in what it was, but that was a cool time. It was very unexpected. If you would have told little Nate that he was going to be in a worship band, I wouldn't even know what that term meant.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. And it's how I ended up meeting a lot of the friends and connections I have, still.
Yeah. What's when you guys were touring, who were you touring with, like bigger artists, or were you just kind of doing your own thing?
We did our own thing. The big tour that we did was called Creation Fest.
Oh yeah.
Tour. So Creation is a giant festival, and they decided to take it on tour. So it was I think it was 8 bands, and it was co-headliners were 1,000 Foot Crutch, Kutless, and then it had Pillar, Firefly, Run Kid Run, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then us and a band
awesome.
called Esterlin. But we did that. That tour was like 2 months long, so that was the longest I had ever been gone.
Were those big crowds?
Yeah, it was cool. We were on a bus, shared a bus with Run Kid Run and KJ52. And that was really cool. My first time on a bus, sleeping on a bunk, really different, like showing up to a show.
It's pretty early on.
Yeah, well, no, we were very spoiled. Like walking up to the stage and your stuff is already set up for you was weird.
I bet.
For me, but awesome at the same time. So yeah, it was really cool, man. That was a big tour, but for the most part, it was just us driving around the country ourselves.
Yeah. How old were you at this age?
I think it was, let's see, 20. It was 24 through 28. I think 29, something like that.
Prime years, man, and being able to do that's exciting.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'm very. I look back on it fondly, for sure.
I bet. So why did the band end? And I guess kind of take me through the end of that, and maybe the next band that was it Kingdom after that?
Mm-hmm. It didn't end really. Our second album, the label, we turned in 52 demos, and they said, "Oh, we hate this." And right. Oh, awesome. And because we went forward with tracking the album, and we had a producer from Australia fly out and do the thing, and they ended up dropping us when the album was finished. We finished the album, then they dropped us, and they kind of held it for ransom, because we owed money. You get record label. It's not really like they just give you money. It's you pay it back.
Yeah.
So there was that whole situation. I was newly married. So all of a sudden I'm no job, and so. We moved on. I moved on from that. Just was what was best for my new family, And my wife wanted to go back to school, and I wanted to support her in that. So that's what we did. Then that album comes out, the second album, and it actually did really well. But so they didn't stop. They're technically still going. What they did is they planted a church. The other band members planted a church in LA. And started doing music under the name Fearless Band.
Okay.
And so it's kind of funny if you go look for Worth Dying For, you'll find, I think it's this weird thing where they take your album and they do like dumbed down versions of it for churches. It sounds really bad. It sounds bad. I'm gonna be honest with you. It sucks. But in the second album, they retroactively changed the name of it and put it under Fearless Band. So. Which is also kind of weird. So, but that second album it is cool. Love Riot, I think it's cool. But yeah, so they're still going. Yeah, they're still going today, putting out music, and they're still doing it. So,
yeah. So you left that, and then obviously you joined Kingdom. Let's talk about your time in Kingdom, and maybe talk about looking back on that, and kind of bring me through that journey.
Yeah. So we moved to Sacramento. We went to a church. The first day I walked in the door, there's a guy standing in the doorway, and he says, "Hey, you're that guy." And I said, sure.
I am that guy.
I am that guy. And he said, "Hey, let's go to lunch." I said, "Okay, I like lunch." And don't know him at all. First person I ever met there. And he ended up being the worship one of the worship guys there, and they had just started a band. They won some contest where they were going to open up for the Rock and Worship Roadshow at Arco Arena in Sacramento. So they needed a bass player, and I had just learned to play bass from my previous band. So I joined. I was like, oh, cool. Let's do it. So I joined that band, and we started writing music and put out a couple albums, and was on a label, Dream Records, and yeah, we just, it was mostly for our church and youth group and stuff, but we did go out and play. We did a couple conventions, and we had some radio songs and things like that.
Looking back on that, how do you feel about that time in that band, and maybe kind of walk me through those records briefly?
Yeah, I love that time. That was such a, for me, I felt like, oh man, it was a kind of a dark time for me, to be honest with you. I left the band, and they kept going, and they were doing, big things. And I was working retail and tattooing people out of my house to pay the bills. And I was like, wow, cool. My music journey is over. It sucks, and watching them succeed from afar, it was definitely a blow. But being able to play music again in a band that was so cool was such it was awesome. It was a blessing. The guy Jordan in that band is like my best friend to this day. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun, man. And we put out did 2 albums and an acoustic one. So 3 albums. But that time was great for me because it was like I had gotten so used to not writing music that when I got into this new band, they were like, so you're successful, so you help us write. Wow. And I was like, oh, cool. I do love to write. I just had kind of just shut that part down, Yeah. And so it was great for me personally to be able to create and write music again. And it felt really nice to be able to do that. I missed it.
I bet. Especially, like you said, you kind of leave a band and it's kind of see it kind of pass you by. And I'm sure that was probably, probably a downtime, but it's also a time for you to maybe, not only reflect, but, obviously God was preparing you for something else. I think that's kind of cool to look at it that way, at least.
Yeah. Well, it's easy in retrospect, but at that time, it definitely was that. It was, for me, it was a humbling time. Sometimes you got to get smacked around a little bit. And, sure. And it was humbling. And then also, I feel it's sometimes you write the best songs in the darkest times.
Absolutely.
That's what our artists do to survive. We write. And
absolutely.
So all that was, I think that band really kind of, it propelled me into what I'm able to do today.
That's cool.
So yeah, it was cool.
Awesome, man. So does Kingdom wind up shutting down, or do you leave that as well? And I guess, is that kind of tail into joining Kutless?
Yeah. So in that band, I was kind of like the band dad because I had done the Life on the Road and all that. We used to make jokes about life on the road, when I moved from, that was in Rockland, California. I moved there to Napa, California. And the band never really officially stopped. It just was, it was harder to do, especially when the Kutless thing came up. I was just like, I can't, you guys are totally free to keep going. And I think you should, but it was hard for me to do both.
Sure.
And so that's just kind of where it ended. And we always talk about it because now, especially with the digital age and stuff, you could just put out an album without seeing each other. So we talk about that sometimes. Because everyone in that band was really talented and great writers and things, but it gave me the confidence back to be able to do the Kutless thing. I think if they would have rang me up back, after my first band, I would have been a miserable failure at it. But sure. This band definitely renewed my confidence in myself, I guess.
That's awesome. So how did Kutless come to? Walk me through that, and how that kind of came to.
So back when we did that first big tour, I did merch and I did like vlogs for our band. So I would do these really weird, they're on YouTube. You should look them up. They're super weird, but really kind of Tim and Eric inspired band vlog videos, and which they didn't always love, but I did, but they're funny. and so I made on that tour, my idea was to make a vlog, like the Office style mockumentary about me being obsessed with Kutless and joining Kutless. But the thing is, I didn't really listen to them, before the tour. I knew who they were because they were pretty huge, but I just never listened to them. So we started shooting that mockumentary, and it was, about me being obsessed with Kutless and James, and they interviewed all the people from the different bands. It's really funny. It's on YouTube. I think it's Nathan Parrish from Kutless or something like that.
Oh, cool. I'll watch it.
But so that I connected with James in Kutless specifically. Me and him just clicked. He likes metal. I like metal. So he was wearing a Between the Buried and Me shirt during our Devos. He was leading a Devo wearing that shirt. And I was like, what? Cool. You like this band? Yeah, super cool. And then we did that tour. We kept in touch. I would see him at festivals. When I was with Kingdom, we'd see him at festivals and stuff. And then 2015, literally, he called me, which is super weird because grown men, we don't call each other very often, Yeah. And so I thought, that's weird. And he just said, hey, do you want to come play guitar in Kutless? And I didn't even think about it. I said, yeah, let's do it.
Wow. And
then I got off the phone. I was like, what did I just do? So yeah, it was literally out of the blue, man. And I told my wife, and she was very supportive. My job was like, yeah, sure, you'll have a job when you get back from tour. And I just started learning the songs. He sent me their set list. It was like 20 songs. And funny part is, I started learning the songs thinking I was doing rhythm. I'm the new guy, so I'm going to obviously do rhythm guitar. Well, when we had our first Skype call, he's like, okay, cool, awesome. Show me the lead part. And I was like, oh, I think it goes like this. And he's like, wait, do you not know it? And I'm like, not really. I got all the rhythm down. He's like, oh, no, you're doing lead. And I was like, oh, okay. Can I call you back in a week? So I didn't really fancy myself a lead guitar player, but I just went for it and been doing that ever since.
Hey, Rumors Are True podcast listeners. I'm just letting you know that I have an Instagram and Facebook at the Rumors Are True cast if you'd like to add that. Also, if you'd like to subscribe, please click the button. It really helps and goes a long way. So thanks so much for your support. Peace.
Tell me kind of what your time's been like in the band. I mean, you obviously, in smaller bands, and you still kind of got the taste of it, but I'm sure joining an established band, what was that like? And kind of maybe talk me through some time through the band.
Yeah, it was, it's been awesome. The guys are super cool, which is, if you're in a band with people you don't like, it's just going to be a nightmare, dude. It's a marriage. It really is. It's like being married to like 4 other dudes. And so, I think the difference was everything was just taken up a notch or two. As far as like the production and for me, I had always just been like supporting role in a band. Yeah. But now, like as a lead guitar player, like I'm starting a lot of the songs, like I'm doing solos, like super embarrassing stuff, like ladies and gentlemen, Nate Parrish, and I do a solo. It's like, super. For me, it was like, don't say that. But that was all cool. And then obviously getting to travel more, doing tours, doing more bus tours. My favorite bus tour was we did a tour with Disciple and shared a bus with them, and I freaking love those guys. Yeah. And getting to play internationally, we played in festivals in Germany. We did a 2-month tour in 2016 in Europe and Ukraine, actually, which is crazy now looking back. So I think it really pushed me to, it was like, this is the big show now. Yeah. So you have to know your stuff. They're expecting you to show up and know,
do your thing,
everything. And then on top of it, to have stage presence. So, cause it's, just a higher level, which for me really pushed me. And I think it grew me a lot. Definitely grew me a lot.
Have you been able to, since you've joined the band, I know you haven't played on any records currently, but have you been in the songwriting process at all, or is it, are you just kind of doing what's been done?
You know, I did try to jump in a little bit when we were working on the last couple of albums, but you know, honestly, the guys, they have a system down, they have a chemistry established. We've always talked about it, especially with the newer stuff, since it's heavier. It's like, okay, cool, you're getting, you know, I love heavy music too, so this is getting closer to my wheelhouse. But no, nothing official. Just, you know, when we play live, there's obviously some established, like, okay, Strong Tower, you have to play this lead line because that's the thing.
Yeah.
But on a lot of songs, I just do whatever, and so I change a lot of songs. So when you come see it live, it'll sound different than the album, because they have allowed me to kind of the creativity to do my own thing here and there. And so, yeah, it's sort of a show up and report for duty kind of thing, but I do have freedom to within the set to do stuff and ideas and things like that.
What's the future looking like for Kutless currently? Like, what are you guys doing? Any recording soon, or any tour dates, or any tours at all?
Nothing right now. I'm just hanging out and waiting for the next thing. So, yeah. The last song we put out was in 2022, which is really cool. End of the World. It's heavy, as it sounds. So, but yeah, no, I'm just I'm just kind of waiting for what's next. I don't know what's next, but yeah.
Well, and that's probably giving you a lot of time to work on your solo stuff, and I kind of want to go over that as well. Yeah, let's talk about your EPs that you put out. Maybe talk me through starting, the process of putting your own music out, and let's go through the EPs.
Yeah. So in 2019, it's kind of funny, but I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. I know he's very divisive, but I love his treatment of pretty much all his adaptions. Specifically Batman versus Superman. Very divisive film, but I love it. And so dark and whatever. So I went to a screening where he was doing a screening of his cut of Batman versus Superman with like 100 people. It was me and my wife and like 100 people in the theater. Yeah, it was amazing. And then he did like a Q&A thing, whatever. And he said something, and he was talking about, because people, they didn't like his treatment of Superman. And he said, well, I've never seen Superman punch anyone through a building. I've never seen what it would really be like for Superman to fight a Kryptonian person. It's going to be chaos. I've never seen anyone in a movie put that, what the conflict he must have had being from another world that doesn't exist and having these powers, but not being able to be who he is because he's scared or the world's not ready.
Yeah.
And he really put that conflict into that Man of Steel movie, and I loved it, man. I'm not a Superman fan, but I was after that movie because he gave you sort of like a relatable Superman.
Yeah.
So, anyways, all that to say, he did that because that's what he wanted to see. He's like, I'm gonna make a movie that I like because that's the best way to do it. You don't make a movie, you don't make art or something for someone else to like. You make it for you because that's the truest form of art. It's going to come through, the honesty and everything is going to come through because you made it because you wanted to, right?
Totally.
And when he said that, for some reason, it just clicked in my brain. I was like, duh, that's what music is supposed to be at its core. Really, before anyone gets involved, before labels get their hands on it or producer tells you what to do, you make and you write the song that you have to make. Talking about when you're going through something and you're an artist, like you have to create, you have to survive. So I'm like, I haven't done that in so long. I've been in all these bands playing someone else's music, and that's time to do my own thing. So I got a little studio set up in my loft at the time, and I just said, my commitment to myself was I'm going to write whatever comes out. I'm not going to ask for opinion. I'm not going to show anyone. I don't care what they think about it. It's going to be specifically something that I need to say in the way I want to say it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So Politicians and Celebrities was my first song. Tracked it in my house. And my brother-in-law produced it, mixed it and mastered it. And I put that out. And then I just started putting out a song a month for a while, and pretty soon that turned into an album. So in 2020, my first album, I'm a Wreck, came out, and I didn't think anyone would even hear it, let alone, care that much. It's just something I felt like I needed to do.
Sure.
But people heard it. It ended up getting on a lot of like best of 2020 lists.
Wow.
HM Magazine. It was Indie Vision's top album of the year.
That's amazing.
Really crazy, yeah. And it was funny because the Brandon from Indie Vision was like, I saw your album, and it said that it was the guy from Kutless did this album, so I wasn't going to listen to it because he's more into the punk rock world and all that stuff. But he's like, I'll just check it out, and he ended up loving it. And he's been a good friend ever since.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
He is. He's a great dude. He's helped me out a ton.
That's awesome.
So that was my first self-produced. I did all the artwork, did all the packaging, all the videos, all that stuff.
Looking back on it, how do you feel about it?
I like it. I think it's obviously you would always go back and change things. That's just how artists are. Like,
sure.
Oh, man, I could have done this better. But I think for what it is, it's great. It's really a collection of singles put together. As it is not necessarily a completely cohesive album, although it all goes together. The songs are different. There's an acoustic song, there's saxophone on this one, and so because it was me just doing whatever I felt like doing. And so I love that album. That was a big deal for me to be able to finally. I finally did it. Put something out. Yeah.
What when you were writing that, was it stuff that you were going through, or was it just kind of pure, just all these thoughts in your head? Was there any? I know you said it wasn't a cohesive record, but was there a direction you were headed, you feel?
I picked the title of the album after kind of like, sometimes you don't know what the theme of your music is until you can look back on a few songs, and you're like, oh. And so at that time, it was sort of writing that in 2019 and mostly in 2020. Obviously, the world was on fire in every way possible. Sure. So I think that colored a lot of the songs. And I just, I'll write down, it's kind of dangerous, don't do this at home, but I wrote one of the songs while I was driving. I had this thought. This is a song called My Monopoly. And I got this melody in my head, and these lyrics started coming. So I started driving with my knee. Yeah. And typing I think I typed a note on my phone or something. I should have just didn't voice the text, but it always makes me say stupid stuff. But,
I know the feeling.
You know what I'm saying? So I wrote that while I was actually driving. Again, don't do that at home. But I think it's just it was a lot of the stuff that was going on in the world in general that I just wanted to talk about.
Sure. Was there at that time, after you put that out and it got on these lists, was there any label interest or anything like that, or was it just wanting to do it by yourself and just in general?
No label interest, nothing like that. Because people are like, oh, you should try to get signed with Tooth and Nail, whatever. I was like, they're not going to sign me. So I didn't seek out anything. Literally, again, talking about retrospect, my years of being in all these different bands at different levels gave me a lot of contacts and friends.
Yeah.
And so I just started there and said, hey, I put out this song. Let me know what you think, or whatever, or share it, or whatever it was, and that's how it kind of helped get it out there, I think. But no label, nothing.
Oh, you never know in the future. Holds.
Yeah.
So after that, you put another EP out, Soul Surgery. Let's talk about that. Looking back on that, was there a direction with that one, and kind of what influenced you writing that EP?
Yeah, so I'm a Wreck was sort of the I like to do themes, and I really love when albums all match.
Yeah,
especially the artwork, And after I'm a Wreck, I was writing Soul Surgery as I was writing and finishing I'm a Wreck. It kind of felt like a continuation, but in a different way. So if I'm a Wreck is the injury, Soul Surgery is
fixing
the surgery. Yeah, so and that album is cohesive. It was all written together at the same time from a collection of 20-something songs, and ended up down to 14. And it has a flow to it. Cliffy from the Huntingtons mastered it.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was super cool for me because, like I said, my first show was
Sure.
Cliffy. He was a hero of mine, and still kind of is. But he was really cool to talk to, and we arranged the album in such a way where it all flows into each other. So if you listen to the album, it just goes like the songs just don't stop; they go into each other. So it's like 14 songs of just fast punk rock, kick in the face, and I love that.
That's sweet, man. How do you feel about it looking back on it?
I like it a lot. I think it's cool. There's a lot of songs that we do a lot of the songs live from that album, probably the most. And like again, I would change some things or phrasings. That album it's just a good, in my opinion, obviously a good, just straightforward punk album. Like it's, like when example like a Face to Face, Don't Turn Away, or the self-titled. They just, I don't know how to explain it. They just, you hold that album, you listen to it, and it's just like one complete thing.
I get you.
You know what I'm saying? That album to me feels like that, where I'm a Wreck isn't like that necessarily, but this one feels like it's just a complete thought, a complete sentence,
Yeah. No, I love that. You mentioned playing it live. Did you start playing these songs out, obviously, with the first EP as well, and you got a band with it?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough to, part of being in doing worship is I know a lot of musicians. So at my church, it just so happened we're all punk rockers at my church. Like it was a downtown church plant, and so the guys on my worship team are like amazing musicians. They're all tatted up and they're all believers, but they're all punks. And so such a crazy coincidence or not, but and we're friends. So I was like, hey, you guys, will you be my band? And they're all like, yes, let's do it. So. Our first couple of things were live streamed, obviously. We did some live stream stuff, and then we started playing out. I think my first show, I'm looking at the poster, was September of 2021, I think. Yeah. I got hit up to do a show at Jerry's Pizza, which if you know Bakersfield.
I do,
Yeah, legendary Jerry's Pizza. So I did a show there. It was my first show, and a lot of the stuff I learned in Kutless helped me out a lot with putting together a band and how to do it via distance, or like how to do it effectively, right? So I could like isolate what tracks everyone's doing and put it in a Dropbox and or the set list and so when we show up, it's like very cohesive already. Yeah. I learned a lot of that from doing Kutless too. So I've been playing. I've gone through a few different members, but they're all friends. Like if they can't play, another buddy will step in. But I have a pretty solid band now that we've been going for a while, and it's super cool, man. I'm always super humbled that people would want to play, because I know what it's like to play someone else's songs,
Sure.
And I just love that they're want to jump in there and bring the songs to life.
Yeah, and didn't you say recently you just played with Seth from Watashiwa and how was that for you? That's amazing.
That's a great dude. Yeah. So actually at this one, Seth didn't come to this one, but I played with Seth about a year ago. I played with Watashiwa. But it's cool to, like, it's weird. So you have to kind of pay your dues regardless of who you are. Sure. Like I show up at Jerry's, no one cares if you're in Kutless. So you do your Jerry's Pizzas and you do all these other club shows or whatever. But now it's super cool, like getting to play with people that I looked up to. Like I played a show with Scott Russo from Unwritten Law.
Oh wow!
I opened for Marky Ramone in February.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm like finally getting to do all this like cool stuff. I'm like, I don't even know how I got here, but it's really cool. And then you get the occasion where like you get to play with guys that you had played with in other bands. So Disciple came through California. I got to open for those guys.
That's awesome.
And play with them. Josiah in Disciple was my producer on this new album.
Oh, nice.
So that was really cool. And dude, I love it. I'm trying to get a show together with Slick Shoes and.
Oh, nice. I'm having Joe on soon.
Okay, can you tell him to email me back, please?
He definitely takes his time to get back to me. I'll text him like a week later.
Yeah, he did actually. He got back to me. He's like, dude, I'm sorry. I don't know how I missed this email. Let me talk to the band. And then that's where we're at now. But yeah, we'll make it work, dude. It'll be super fun. Seth is in. Too bad Eugene is in. So
wow,
we'll make this a killer show.
That's a banger, dude.
Let's go, Joe.
That's
Joe.
Come on, Joe. Well, let's talk about the new record you got coming out. You mentioned, you put a couple singles out. Let's talk about kind of what inspired this and maybe your thoughts on it now and when it's coming out and all that.
Yeah. So after Soul Surgery, I feel like I had hit the wall with what I could do musically in my room. I'm tracking everything through plugins and things like that. And musically, I knew I could do more with a little help. So talked to Josiah. He had done the last Kutless songs. He's done a lot of cool stuff. Great producer. And I needed some help sonically with the guitars and just bells. I needed more bells and whistles and more outside, kind of input. So we worked out a deal where I would basically write the songs. I would track them in my house and then send it to him, and he would kind of make edits, arrangement edits, do the drums and send it back to me so I could start tracking instruments and vocals over that.
Sure.
And then he'll produce from there. So we started doing that in, it's been January of 23.
Wow.
So over a year. And I keep writing songs. Like I've written like 50 songs for this album.
Amazing.
But I decided to keep it to a tight 10. I love a 10-song album.
Oh, yeah.
Feels right. And so the first single came out in February. It's called Bad Excuse. And I really love what Josiah has been able to do sonically with the music, as far as like there's like some organ in some songs, or there's just like intros and outros, and he adds some counter melody parts, and it's just really cool stuff. And I'm loving it so far. So I'm 2 singles in right now. Nice.
When does it come out?
I don't know. I'm thinking tentatively fall.
Yeah. What's influenced this record? Is it maybe just life in general, or
Life in General by MXPX? No. I think it came from a Shia LaBeouf interview out of all the random things, but he was talking about how he had just screwed up a bunch, and he was talking to John Berthnall, I think is how you say his name, the guy who plays Punisher.
Okay.
He was talking about, because he's a dad now, and he was saying that he used the metaphor of a mountain for like a dad. He's like, sometimes you're like a mountain. You just need to be there.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I love that. And so, and I had just had my son, and with culture and stuff, everything is pushing you. Like no one wants you to stand on your feet.
Yeah.
They want to push you over. And, especially for my son, like I need to be a mountain. I'm not going to freaking move. I'm always going to be here. I have little caves for you to hide in if you need, all that stuff. And so the theme of the album is Make Me a Mountain. But all the different aspects of a mountain, mountains being in your way or moving mountains or all that kind of stuff. So that's the theme of it. But musically, I think it just always comes back to my love of punk and all its subgenres. I love skate punk. I love melodic punk. I've always gravitated towards Face to Face because I felt like it was more grown up. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was like,
totally.
Blink-182 is like, yay, farts and whatever. And Face to Face is not like that. And I love that.
Totally.
So I've always liked those guys, and
they're great.
I do have a.
I was gonna say, Ignorance is Bliss is incredible.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Ethan Luck about that because he loves that album.
That record's amazing.
And I told him it's my least favorite, but every year it grows on me more and more.
I mean, I like them all, but that's the one I just kind of was like, whoa, this is a different band.
So different. Yeah, so different. So they're a huge influence. Social G is obviously an influence, but a lot of I don't want to say emo because people think emo means like My Chemical Romance or something, but
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit more of a emo influence in this. Coming from listening to bands like The Promised Ring and Mineral.
Yeah.
And so there's a little. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Freaking love them. Yeah. So there's some of that stuff in there. But it's still it's hard because I ask people when I do shows and they're like, well, you're not a punk band. You don't need to do punk shows. I'm like, well, what do you think I do? They're like, oh, you like a indie rock. I'm like, okay. So I don't know what to call it. It's just I just know what I like. It's
rock and roll, bro.
It's rock and roll. Let's just stick to rock and roll. So I'm in my mind it's punk rock, but it may sound like something else to someone else.
No, I get that, man. That's awesome. It sounds like you're super excited to put this out. Hopefully it'll come out soon. And yeah, other than that show that you said you're trying to put together, is there any other stuff on the horizon maybe?
Yeah, actually I'm working with a organization here locally that rescues girls from human trafficking.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And we're putting together a show May 28th with Brian Head Welch from Korn.
Oh nice. He's a sweetie.
He is a sweetie. And Spoken.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're coming out and doing it downtown at the Fox Theater. Super cool. And so I'm opening up that show.
That's so cool.
It was nerve-wracking because, he's like, oh, Brian wants to hear your songs. Can you send it to him? Oh, no. And I sent him. Are you ready? Yeah. It's just me covering Korn on acoustic. But I sent it to him, and he's like, he liked the last single I put out, I'm All Right. He's like, oh, this song's amazing. Like, oh, can I frame that?
That's really cool.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. It's for a good cause, obviously.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, doing that, and then got a show in June. Gonna go play with a band called Light the Way, another Christian.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah,
pop punk band, and maybe doing a little touring this fall.
Yeah,
some short run stuff, but
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, why don't you tell me the socials and maybe where people can find your music?
Yeah, probably the easiest is just nateparrish.com.
Yeah, it's got all the links.
Yeah, it's got all the stuff. Obviously Instagram, the Nate Parrish. I got all the things.
Have you thought about doing vinyl for any of these at all, or CDs or anything?
100%. Awesome. I've done physical. I'm sold out right now, but I did physical for both the first albums. I like digipacks.
Yeah.
They feel nice. I really want to do vinyl. I've looked into it. I've done a one-off for I'm a Wreck. It didn't sound as good as I would like it to, so I didn't continue with that process.
Sure.
But I would love to. It's just the upfront money is pretty hefty, but
totally.
I think with this new album, it would definitely be worth the investment. I'm pretty stoked on how this album's turning out, and actually, which is really cool. I'm gonna throw this in there. I've never charted on radio as a solo artist because it's just I don't this on my own. But I charted last week.
That's amazing.
Bad Excuse charted 19 on the Christian rock charts, which I thought was super surprising but awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's like, oh my gosh, how did this even happen? But so I think the new batch of songs, this new album, I would definitely love to do vinyl for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds exciting, dude. So I know we kind of talked about, the future kind of, in regards to Kutless and your solo, but what does the future look like for you overall?
Oh, it's so bright, man. I got to wear shades. No, I look forward to just continuing to make music forever and ever. I don't plan on stopping. Doing more songwriting. I'm looking to do more songwriting collab stuff. So I'm setting something up this summer, calling it Song Surgery.
Oh, that's cool.
So doing sort of like sessions via Zoom,
that's
where
awesome.
Kind of go over songs and do some editing and all that kind of stuff. I really love songwriting. I love the craft of it. It's so difficult to write a song that resonates and it just sticks around,
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always chasing. I want to write those kind of songs that mean something. So that and being a dad, being a good husband.
Yeah
That's
exciting, man. I love hearing that. That's encouraging, and I know we haven't really known each other for a very long time, but I feel like I feel like I've known you for a little bit now. Now that hearing this, it's just cool to hear your perspective and your thoughts on that. So I really appreciate you taking time with me and talking me through your journey, and I'm really excited for the future for you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's I like I said, I don't even know how I found your podcast. I think it was through maybe the Mike Herrera thing. Did you interview Mike?
No, not yet. I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, but I was on the Moon Traveling podcast that they had him on, and I was just kind of on the intro, the outro, and like the Patreon thing or whatever. I just happened to be in Atlanta, and Matt was like, "Come over." So
you were every time I saw your guest pop up, it was someone I knew or someone I really wanted to know. So it's like,
that's so cool.
This guy's killing it. Every guest was, because you had Seth on, right? You had Seth.
Yeah.
I saw you had dude from The Blamed, and
Brian. He's great.
You dropped a pretty hefty hint today.
Yeah.
That I'm stoked about.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. And when you messaged me, I was like, oh, no way.
Yeah, man.
You know, you do podcasts and stuff a lot, but I was like, this one, this is.
Thank you.
Stoked to be on it. Yeah, so thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Awesome. Well, hopefully in the future, you and I'll be able to link up in person. It'd be kind of cool to hang out. And
yes, sir.
And, if you head down to Florida, let me know, and we'll throw down. So
nice. I love it.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you to the listener for tuning in again and again. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the likes, the subscribes, the ads, the messages, all that. It's really kind of you. Thank you. Again, I appreciate it. If you'd like to add me on Instagram and Facebook, at The Rumors Are True Cast. And I'd like to thank Nate Parrish. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated you coming on, and really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you again. Nate Parrish got some incredible artists on the horizon, guys, and you know it. Nostalgia is still a heck of a drug.
Oh, hallelujah. Get up right now.